Golden Wind. So gold experience, I gave grass fighting. Grass because he's able to give life to things and heal them. So, you know, grass and life and all that. And I was considering fairy too, but to me grass feels better for the healing ability thing. And for fighting, I gave it that because golden experience is really good at fighting. Sticky fingers, I gave fighting ghost. Primary fighting because its main thing is pretty much used for fighting, and I use ghost to represent his zippers going to another dimension. Another type you could probably give it is steel for the zippers themselves. I gave Moody Blues Psychic Ghost because with the thing about bringing back stuff from the past, I think of time stuff as basically all psychic, and I would give him Ghost since he is looking at the past and all that, and the remainings of it could be ghost-like, something like that. Sex Pistols, I gave Steel Normal. Steel because it's mainly used to move around bullets and all that, but I also gave it the normal typing because the actual stand itself is really just 6 really small people. Aerosmith, I gave Steel Flying. This one is pretty self-explanatory. It's plain that flies and is made out of metal. Purple Haze, I give Poison, and like Aerosmith, this one should also be pretty obvious. It just releases a toxic gas, which is pretty much it. So yeah, poison type. Spice Girl, I gave Psychic Fairy. Psychic because it's one of the few stands that can like actually talk, so I gave it what's pretty much the smart type. And Fairy because it's pink. Mr. President, I gave Dragon Steel. This one is pretty funny, but for Mr. President, I gave it Dragon because it is a turtle, which is a reptile, which is pretty much a dragon in Pokemon terms. And the steel type comes from the key that allows for the little room inside. King Crimson, I gave Psychic Dark. Psychic because it skips time, and that's basically psychic. And I gave it Dark because it's Diavolo's stand and he is very evil. Black Sabbath, I gave Ghost and Dark because the ghost comes from the fact that Black Sabbath acted like a ghost, like way more than what a stand typically is. And I gave it Dark because it incorporates shadows a lot, which is basically the dark type pretty much. Soft Machine, I gave Grass Fairy because out of all the Pokemon typings, grass seems to fit the definition of soft the most because grass is soft. And honestly, what else could it really be? And I gave it Steel because it does have a sword. Craftwork, I gave Electric because its whole thing is storing energy and then releasing it, and the energy part is pretty much electric. Little Feet, I gave the normal typing because all it really does is shrink other people, and I don't really think that could fit into a type. Man in the Mirror is Steel and Ghost. Steel for the fact that it's a mirror, and Steel best fits that type of thing, and Ghost because it brings people into a completely different world, something that's correlated with ghosts and the supernatural. Beach Boy, I gave the Steel type because it's a fishing rod. Maybe it could have the Psychic type because the hook does look like it's doing its own thing sometimes, but I think pure Steel works best for Beach Boy. The Grateful Dead, I gave Psychic and Fire. And for Psychic, it's got the ability to make people older, and so it kind of works with time, so I just gave it Psychic. And Fire because it makes people older depending on heat, like with their body heat and all that. Maybe it would just have some type of ability that would make it weak to ice, but yeah, I think Fire works best with the heat aspect of the Grateful Dead. Babyface, I gave Normal and Steel because the stand thing that fights is really just a normal creature, but technically the stand itself is that computer looking thing that Malone uses, so that's why I gave it Steel. White Album, I gave the Ice type, and this one should also be pretty self-explanatory. White Album uses ice and the cold for literally all of its moves, so Ice type. Clash, I gave the water type because not only is it a shark, but it can only really be in water and other liquids like that. Talking Head, I gave the dark type because nothing else could really fit, to be honest. And you could stretch the idea of making someone say the wrong thing as being pretty evil. So yeah, dark type. Notorious B.I.G. I gave the normal and ghost type because of the life after death aspect. It would be best incorporated with normal being the life and ghost being death. I gave Metallica the steel type because it uses iron and steel is, you know, a type of metal. There isn't really much else in its ability that would warrant another type to me though. So yeah, just steel. Green Day, I gave poison because just like Purple Haze, its main ability really just uses poison. Oasis, I gave groundwater because its whole thing is going into the ground and coming out of it, but the water part comes from the scenes with Seko showing him swimming in the water, and whenever he comes out of the water it kind of looks like swimming and like it has a visual and all that, so I think water is pretty appropriate. Silver Chariot Requiem, this stand is from Silver Chariot and silver, so metal, so I gave it the steel type for that. And I decided to give it the dark type because of its dark aura surrounding it, and since it's like a rogue type of stand, I think evil would fit, so dark type. Rolling Stones is rock psychic. I gave rock because it's rock, and I gave it psychic because it does tell fates of people in a way, so it quite literally is psychic. Hopefully the Diamond is Unbreakable episode doesn't come out in 9 months from now.